County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. I thought that I might have a little difficulty getting the recorder to open up this morning because everything shut down yesterday. We had a power outage, but it's good. We're up to go. Surprisingly so. Let's talk with State Police Trooper, Public Information Officer. He is Clifford Greenfield with us this morning. Conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Did you come in on a boat or
The cruiser does okay in the rain.
That's good.
With good tires. Tread depth makes all the difference.
Well, you know what? That's a pretty leading statement that you give us right there, because we want to talk about vehicle safety, number one. Safety in this kind of weather, this amazing downpour that we're getting today, number two, and then safety overall as a driver. So let's start with the weather, because that's obviously at the top of everybody's mind this morning. All of this rain, standing pools of water. As a driver, as somebody who is in the business of protecting drivers from other drivers and from trees and lines and everything else that there might be, what should we be cognizant of most of all when we get weather like this?
The main thing is to slow down and give yourself extra time before you leave. Expect that you may encounter delays, traffic delays, but also roadway hazards, fallen trees, fallen limbs, roads that might be flooded, ponding on the roads, gravel washed out in areas. The school buses may be somewhat delayed during a heavy rainstorm as well, so you may be caught up behind a slower moving school bus, going slower than usual. So just have those things in mind before you leave for work in the morning or before you venture out, and expect to be a little delayed.
And a little bit of extra distance between you and the guy in front of you too, huh?
Yeah, following distance is really important. I mentioned earlier, check your tire tread depth. That really makes all the difference when you're driving in torrential rain, is the condition of your tires and how new they are. So you may want to check those today if you expect to be driving a long distance or really any distance the next couple of days.
You know, we think about that when we get weather like this or when we know snow's coming, but we really should be paying extra special attention to that all the time.
Right.
It's not difficult to check the depth of the tires, is it?
No, it's not. No. You can use a penny to do that. You can look up online what the measurement is. We use tread depth measuring tools at the barracks. Every week we do a weekly car check of every patrol car. So we have to measure each tire every week, and that gets logged so that the supervisor can keep track of when a patrol car needs new tires. And that really is key. It makes all the difference in the rain and the snow.
Yeah.
Yep.
We see the motor vehicle enforcement team out inspecting big trucks, and we wonder sometimes some of the cars that we see out on the road might benefit from that as well, or the rest of us who are driving with whoever that is that's driving that car.
Right.
But it really is important, especially here comes some colder weather. I know it's the first day of September, but there's colder weather coming, and not so far from now.
Right. We put out a press release yesterday to advise drivers of the hazardous conditions during Hurricane Ida here today and tomorrow. In that press release, I included some information on keeping an emergency kit in your vehicle. So that kit should include a flashlight, cell phone charger, jumper cables, gloves, boots, a blanket, bottled water, first aid supplies, things like that. And then when the winter months come around, you want to add to that warm gloves, a hat, maybe even a heated blanket that you could run in the car, keeping safety in mind, of course. But that'll be right around the corner before we know it.
Yeah, that scraper's pretty important too, isn't it?
The ice scraper as well. Yep, I'm glad you mentioned that. So we'll be getting back into that soon enough. I also want to remind drivers, if you're out driving in the rain and using your windshield wipers, the state law is that you have to have your headlights on. And a lot of folks rely on their automatic headlight feature on their vehicle. It may not turn on when you're using your wipers. It depends on the vehicle. So you want to make sure you manually turn your headlights on when you're using your windshield wipers.
Yeah, and that's something else that, is neglected. The wiper blades themselves, those inserts, they're very easy to replace.
Right.
And they need to be replaced every once in a while. I imagine there are a lot of vehicles driving around there have never had their wiper blades replaced.
Probably, yep, and that's really important. Visibility is number one. If especially now that we are back in the school season and students are walking to school or waiting for the school bus on the side of the road, and your visibility could be limited during this torrential rain. And if you can't see a small portion of your windshield, it may be obstructing a person, such as a child, in your path.
Yeah, absolutely. The first week of school, have there been any incidents that state police have been made aware of people not respecting the school bus lights?
I did hear a trooper call out a violation on the radio a few days ago.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the result of that, but a trooper had observed someone fail to stop for the school bus stop sign
Scary.
at a bus stop. Yeah,
That is scary stuff. Those are little kids.
yeah,
And it's just it's not a good situation. Construction season's still going on too, so there are a lot of people out along the roads with the signs and with the work
Right.
crews.
right.
All of them need protection, which is why I asked you here today. But then you pointed out that there's something else on the schedule, and that is a big holiday weekend coming. And so I know that state police are very, very concerned about people getting a little bit out of hand with alcohol and with too much celebration.
Yep, Labor Day weekend's coming up this weekend. We will be out in force as we always are on holiday weekends. Designate a sober driver. Be cautious of the potential for impaired drivers on the road, as you always should be. If you would happen to see an impaired driver or someone you think is impaired driving on the road, driving erratically, please call 911 and troopers or local police will be dispatched to intercept that vehicle and initiate a traffic stop if we can. We receive a lot of those calls for erratic drivers.
You know, that's one of the interesting things to me about the way that state police are able to get drivers such as that off the road. It's different now than it used to be. You used to just chase. Back 30, 40 years ago, somebody driving drunk, you chased after him. There are certain points at which it's in the best interest to back off of that and really just hope and pray that that person who is obviously having some issues behind the wheel doesn't hurt somebody.
Right. And if you were to call 911, you would give some information to the 911 dispatcher who would then, if you're in our area, a state police jurisdiction area, then 911 would transfer the call to our station and you would speak with one of our dispatchers and they would give you guidance as to what you should do in that situation. They would take down the vehicle information, description, make, model, registration plate, if you can see it safely, direction of travel, landmarks in the area to give us an idea of where you are. And if they think it's an unsafe situation for you to be following that vehicle, they will tell you to stop, to pull off, because we don't want any sort of confrontation to occur.
No.
But at the same time, we want sufficient information. We need sufficient information to dispatch a trooper to the appropriate location and the appropriate vehicle.
Yeah, and state troopers in the pursuit, you guys are following very specific rules as well to protect, again, from something getting really out of hand.
Right, we do. Pursuits can be very dangerous, as we all know. We know that every day. So we have to keep in mind the benefit of apprehending the violator versus the risk to the public, to public safety. And that's something that is, whenever we make that decision to initiate a pursuit, our supervisors are listening to the radio. They're asking for detailed information from the pursuing trooper to make that decision whether or not to continue the pursuit or discontinue the pursuit.
Yeah. All right. So obviously we don't want anybody drinking and then getting behind the wheel of a vehicle. And this weekend, that is more of a possibility with the holiday weekend. You got extra patrols, I assume.
Right. We'll have extra patrols out Friday through Monday. I do have some numbers here from last year's Labor Day weekend traffic enforcement. Here in Indiana County, over the 2020 Labor Day weekend, which ran from September 4th through September 7th, troopers at Indiana made 779 traffic stops. We issued 705 traffic citations. We made 10 DUI arrests, 13 self-initiated criminal arrests. So most of those would be drug-related, drug possession arrests, where we make a traffic stop and encounter drugs during the course of that investigation. We assisted 6 motorists. Last Labor Day weekend, fortunately, we only had 4 crash investigations. Over the entire weekend, 4 reportable crashes.
That might just be because last year everybody was staying home with the pandemic.
Yeah, not much travel, right. One person was injured in those crashes. 2 of those crashes were alcohol related. We did not issue any child passenger safety seat citations, which I think is a good thing. I think people here in Indiana County, for the most part, understand that you need to have your child secured properly. We issued 7 seatbelt citations, 53 warnings for seatbelt violations, and 524 speeding citations. Troop-wide, last year, that would be the 4 counties, Cambria, Indiana, Somerset, and Westmoreland counties. Our troopers made 1,900 traffic stops and issued about 1,900 traffic citations.
State Police Trooper Clifford Greenfield with us here this morning. We're talking about vehicle safety and driver safety and in a number of different ways or facets as we talk about this weather that is obviously affecting us today, the holiday weekend coming up, the approach of colder weather and what that will be all about, and the school season as well. And they are all just reminders for us that sometimes we can get complacent behind the wheel of a car, and we forget some of the basics that we need to be following.
Yeah, and everyone has a lot on their mind these days. Everyone is under stress. We understand that. We are under stress as well due to the nature of the job, and in addition to all the other things that are going on in the world right now. But when you're driving a vehicle, you are in charge of that vehicle. You're responsible for it. Really, regardless of what's going on around you, because that vehicle can be a deadly weapon. It can kill someone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we see that all too often in our career. I've investigated several fatal crashes myself, and we don't want to see that happen to anybody as a result of someone being distracted or intoxicated, especially.
Yeah. All right. So be helpful out along the roadways. You see somebody that's in distress that you can help them out. Obviously, you want to call 911 if it's a situation that warrants that. If it's something that you can help them with, and then that's certainly something good to do. I wanted to ask you one other thing about this past summer, or the summer that we are still in the midst of, because we hear about this happening, and there are actually now nationwide campaigns about people leaving their children in cars and just running into the store. And sometimes you get held up in that store, and it's a while before you get back out. Should not be doing that because it's a dangerous situation.
Right. It can be very dangerous, especially when the temperatures are warm or very cold. Regardless, it's a violation, leaving a child unattended in a motor vehicle. And we have cited folks for that. We do get reports of those. We respond and we investigate. I'm not aware of any recent incidents of that nature here in Indiana County, fortunately. We do get calls for pets left in vehicles as well. So however quick you think the trip might be going into a store, you never know what could happen. There's a risk there. There's a significant risk that your child could be left unattended for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, and it's a scary situation for a little kid, too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You don't
want
your child to have that memory.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. He is State Police Public Information Officer Trooper Clifford Greenfield. Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you, Todd.
Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
The voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.